Yo, what's going on there, YouTube? I'm coming out of the darkness and into the light here for Philosophical Friday number 2 here on the TheAngryRanter channel. So today, one of the things I want to talk about, something that probably doesn't get discussed enough, is the concept of minimalism. But mainly what it is about minimalism, like that, a few myths I can debunk, and of course one of the big reasons that I am a follower in the path of minimalism. First things first, of course, minimalism, which, whether it was popularized by Marie Kondo and her book, or whether it was popularized by Joshua Fields Millburn and Ryan Nicodemus, those are the two that I follow when it comes to my minimalist journey, and their great documentary on Netflix called Minimalism. They do a fantastic job of explaining that you can make the choice to essentially ditch all of your worldly possessions and take it to the extreme. But again, they also mention that that's one extreme. Whereas the way that minimalism itself should be done is cutting out the things in life that don't bring you joy anymore. Now, I've talked about minimalism here and there on this channel in some vlogs in 2019, but I don't think I've addressed it at all in any 2020 vlogs. Well, that's because I tend to have every second year of my life be a good minimalism year. I came into it in 2017 and I played the Minimalism Game, which is where you get rid of one thing on day 1, 2 things on day 2, 3 things on day 3, all the way for an entire month. I didn't even think I had 420 things, 450 some odd things for me to get rid of. But you find out that you do. You also come to find out you have a lot of things in your life that you don't value as highly as you think you do. And I don't even take it to the same extreme that the minimalists do. Like, Josh has this thing called the 90-90 rule, which is if I haven't used it in the last 3 months and I don't see myself using it in the next 3 months, it goes. I personally can't use that rule for myself, but because minimalism is about finding your own recipe and taking the things for simplifying your life and making it your own, I do the 720-720 rule because that makes more sense for me. If I don't see it being used in the next 2 years, or I haven't used it in the last 2 years, then it goes. So the last time I did the men's game was back in 2019. And I mean, after doing, 2 minimalism games and being on this minimalism journey for the better part of the last 3 years, it gets me thinking ahead about simplifying. And I mean, I'm in the point in my life right now where I can fully expect by the year 2030 that I'm probably going to move another 3 times. And I really don't want to be roughly every 3 years from here on out lugging a crap load of stuff with me. Instead, you get rid of the things that you don't use, or when you're done with it, you get rid of them. Or if they're books, like, for example, in 2017, one of the big things I did was I used to have, and I mean hundreds of books. Many of them I hadn't touched in a long time. So I put them in bags and I went and donated them all. All the ones that were, books from my teenage years, books from my childhood, things that I could tell you I wasn't going to read. I was also an avid Hardy Boys collector, collecting those, like, blue hardcover ones, and I think I had, like, 50 of them. Even had a couple of repeats, and I even had I think one unique version that had the first and second book smushed together, printed upside down on one side and the other, so it was kind of like book 1, book 2 combo. But I hadn't touched those books in years, nor had I even added to the collection in 3, 4, 5 years come 2017. It was a childhood hobby. And it was the same thing in 2019. I told my parents to just keep my bin full of hockey cards. I don't want them anymore. I had hockey cards, baseball cards, tons of stuff, full collections and full sets of cards that I know are worth something, but I really don't give a shit to personally do anything with it. I once said that maybe I would, and I said that a million times between probably 2012 and 2015 or 2016, when I think the last time I collected any such cards were. But then I realized I hadn't touched them in years, and so in 2019 I got rid of them by just telling my parents to just keep them. They're not mine anymore. You can have them. It's kind of like went, shoved it in the back room in the basement, said, your problem now, and moved out. But for me, the reason I picked minimalism was because I obviously found that the simplifying my life aspect certainly was beneficial. And it was what I call a known benefit. It's something that I know going into it. But one thing that was an unknown benefit to me, and only after listening to almost 100 episodes of their podcast, which I've stopped listening to because they're at like episode 400 and plus, and I really don't listen to that many podcasts. I don't really have time for all that stuff anymore. But even though I did listen to those, say, 100 episodes, it did teach me that minimalism too can also be about cutting out the noise. And some people might be like, well, how is a daily life so loud? Or how is having so much stuff loud? Well, when you're in a room that's crowded and full of stuff, you have a million decisions to choose from on a daily basis for what to do. One of the hardest things that destroys productivity is having too many choices, having too many things that you want to do all at once. And so for me, cutting out the noise, cutting out the decisions, cutting out the number of things that I have saying, hey, pick me, hey, pick me, hey, pick me. All of that was hugely pivotal for me. I needed those things to go, and I needed them to go when they did. It's helped make me 1,000 times more productive these days when it comes to focusing on the things I want to do, the reading, the writing, the gaming, all of that stuff, the stuff that I really care about. And anything extra that's left over, it's because I value it. You know, I got rid of tons of things that to me were just short little fads, things I tried for a while and then didn't want to do anymore. And that's another thing about minimalism. You need to be willing to get rid of things that don't have any value to you anymore, simply because they take up space, and unnecessary space. I don't want bare shelves. Like, and mind you, you guys have seen what my room looks like in tours and in some videos. I don't have nothing. But what I don't have is unnecessary things. I don't have copies of things. Okay, well, I mean, copies of Skyrim for reasons. But I don't have multiple versions of something. And minimalism has also taught me a massive lesson that if there's something that I have, and or even something that like I once had, that we're now years down the road, and I'm like, fuck, I'd like to get back into doing that. If I find the energy, find the time in my life, and find a slot for it, then guess what? I've come to a different point in my life, and I can shell out the cashola for it. Like, one thing that I did off and on for probably about 4 years until summer of 19, when I finally did away with it, was geocaching. I actually loved geocaching, and a bunch of my friends even liked coming with me sometimes when I was doing it. I found the geocaching community to be less than hospitable. Very much like, I went to, I think, my first geocache meet ever on March 30th of like 2019, and I sat at the table at Tim Hortons by myself while the 40 other people who were there did not even come to talk to me. Everybody came in their own groups, their own gaggles, their own everything, and I felt kind of excluded because this is a purely solo venture for me. So I don't really have any other friends who downloaded the app and paid for premium and bought the merch like I did. So I got rid of it. And in minimalism, you have to be willing to do that because it doesn't bring value to your life anymore. Holding on to crap and items because one day I'll use it or just in case I need it. No, that day will never come. And if it does, well, then you need to be ready to shell out. Because that means you found the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this thing, which means then you're going to be ready to shell out the cash for it again. Because you didn't need it for the last 6 years, and so it was only just wasting space in your mind and physically. And if 10 years down the road you're like, oh, I want to do this, and oh, damn, I had it, who knows if it would still be any good. So, of course, you'd want to buy a new one of whatever the hell it is. With that part, I don't feel I'm making that much sense, but I know what I'm trying to say. And I hope everybody gets what I'm saying. Minimalism will help simplify your life and simplify the choices that you make on a daily basis. And make you more productive because there's less to distract you. Believe me, I am a success story. Also, I just enjoy it. It also helps you to be less attached to things. Like, if my phone were to break, it would suck. But because of minimalism, I would understand what I would need to do to get a new one and get it replaced and everything. Not to mention I have Apple Care, so it's a little bit different. But getting rid of things and then not feeling like I'm pining after them anymore, that's a huge thing. But guys, I'll see you tomorrow for the Saturday rant. You guys have yourself a great night. Peace. Like and subscribe.